Over the past couple of years, I have called Jeremy Corbyn unelectable. I have called for his resignation. And now I'm calling for his help. Oh, how the tables have turned. Now, I believe the future of Brexit may actually rest in his hands. Next year, there will be a vote on the Brexit deal. Whether there is a second referendum, a general election, or just a parliamentary vote, as a nation, we will have to decide whether leaving is worth it or not. Corbyn should come out and convince Labour-supporting Brexiteers that staying in the EU is better for their future. By doing so, perhaps he can stop Brexit. This would appeal to moderate Tories and supporters of many of the smaller parties. It could also be his route to number 10. For many years, Corbyn has been sceptical about the EU. But I believe he must come out and campaign for the young people's futures the way they have campaigned for him. So, because of this, I find myself once again singing, "Oh, Jeremy Corbyn."
June.
Yes.
At the end of last year, late in December, Corbyn made it absolutely clear the party would not support staying in the EU, that we had to leave. He also made it absolutely clear that there would be no second referendum, and he did that in response to a statement by Tom Watson. He hinted that there could be a second referendum. He jumped on that immediately. Now, you say you're forgetting that 7 out of 10 Labour constituencies voted to leave. It was and you, like a lot of Labour MPs, talk about supporting democracy. The biggest democratic vote this country has ever had. People voted to leave the European Union, and the majority of people who voted to leave were Labour supporters. It would be the biggest betrayal of those people for Corbyn to suddenly turn into a Remain party. It's not going to happen. He knows what will happen to his party if he goes that way. There's no evidence to show, none whatsoever, that the people of this country have changed their minds. And I'm sure you can quote polls, but I can quote you just as many. YouGov's latest 5 polls, the average of, say there is little difference. We could give figures, but if you want to do... But it's here. I have it too. I have it right here. There's a graphic. Look at the graphic. It says August 2016, right, 46 to 42. Who thought it was wrong? January 2017, right to leave, 47 to 43. Now, the average of all of those... No, listen, the average of all of those polls is a 2% difference. And you know that in every poll, there's a 2.5% margin. And what all of the pollsters are saying, that just because somebody thinks we were wrong to vote to leave, it doesn't mean they think that the referendum should be reversed. In fact, they're saying the reverse. 69% of people, no matter how they voted, think we should just get on with it and get out.
Well, can I just...
You do whatever you like.
Add, and then I'll bring you in. Yes, it's legal. And then I'll bring you in. Just a couple of things on that point, Carol. Like you say, we can all quote polls, but I have a poll that says very different to what you've just quoted, where it says 51% of people would actually vote Remain now if there was another EU referendum. But that's not the point.
And the 2.5% margin on a poll takes it kind of back to where it was.
Well, you could say that about the referendum itself then, couldn't you? But that's not my point. My point is, if we look at what's happening, this deal, precisely, this deal is likely to be a disaster. And so, therefore, it doesn't hurt to go back to the people to say, this is what Brexit now means. Before, we didn't know what Brexit meant. But once we have the terms of the deal, we know what Brexit will mean. And what I'm saying is that I think it's Jeremy Corbyn's duty...
No, it isn't.
Let me finish, please. Because if you look at his base, whether that be young people or Momentum, they are pro-EU, and I believe it's his duty...
No, they're not. 7 out of 10 constituencies voted to leave, June.
Let me finish. I believe it's his duty to go back to those people and make the case as to why it might make
until
more
they get the result you want.
No. And if that point
wants to leave.
Ladies, let's just slightly reposition this, because I'm not going to quote any polls. I'm simply going to quote what I do every single weekday, which is I talk to people on a regular basis because they phone into my radio show. And respecting your position, I believe there is a sense now, just get on with it.
Exactly.
Just bloody well get on with it. We are sick and tired. With due respect, 67% of this, 54% of this, 40%... Forget it. Get on and do it.
I think there's a sense of what's best for Britain. That's the conversation that's being had.
June, the problem you've got is
Yeah.
that Corbyn is not a Remainer.
I know
and
he's
never
not.
was.
Yeah.
Nor was Mr McDonald. I remember sitting next to Mr McDonald just before the referendum, and I said, "What's your feeling on it?" He says, "We're marginally in favour." And I don't think it was at all.
Marginally in favour of staying.
Of staying in, yes. He was marginally, but I don't think they were. But of course, the Labour Party is. And the Labour Party always has been. And it's very interesting to see this thing about democracy in the Labour Party. You know, we believe in democracy in the Labour Party until it doesn't suit what we want, basically. But that's all political leaderships in all parties. But the Labour Party is without doubt believers in Remain, and they want us to remain.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll happen your way. I do think it will happen, and I do think we will have a general election at some stage in the next year or two.
But I think if he made Labour the party of Remain, that's his
I
route to
agree,
number
but
10. And also, just to add to that, Greg, I think the reason why Labour voters voted Brexit is very different to the reason why Conservative voters voted Brexit, and he needs to make the case that he will actually address their concerns.
Didn't work for the Lib Dems, if you look at the last election. That was their policy, and they virtually got obliterated.
But I think the
June.
Lib Dem voter is different to the Labour voter.
there was a
Those
very
working class voters, there are specific
sell.
reasons as to why they voted
There was an interesting
Brexit.
poll the other day, I don't know if you saw it, which said that something like high 60% want another referendum.
No.
But when they asked them how would they vote, it was exactly as you said. It was 50-50. Really.
And that's why
Michelle.
I believe Corbyn has to go and make the case.
And betray all his constituents. But anyway.
I'm so bored.
I really wanted to say something
I've been kidding.
You're a listener to my show, obviously. They just had enough. Just get it done.
I was contemplating falling asleep, but I thought it would be rude.
Go ahead.
Honestly, no, I do. I just think that we've had the vote. Every day people are like changing my... You're asking now for some guy to pretend to be something that he's not, in order to go against the people that voted for his party, in order to support an agenda that's yours, but maybe not his.
No.
I'm bored off my head.
Not at
Just
all.
get on with it.
No, but
That's the only contribution I've got
surely
to
the
make.
problem when you look back is we reduce something to such a simple question, which is actually so
Very
complicated. And this is the trouble why where we are.
But that's
I mean, when you look back in history, I think Cameron will be seen, just as Blair was always going to be seen, Iraq, so Cameron is going to be always seen as the person who did this. For the politics of the Tory party, no other reason.
But
and it hasn't worked.
If Boris got anything right yesterday, it's, we voted. I know people. You're on that 21% and want to reverse it. It's not going to happen. What we have to do is get together and make this work, because it's going to happen, and it needs to be good.
Well, unfortunately, Boris is not the messenger for that.